Hello guys, welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. This is Chaitanya from DellCube and I'm back again with another tutorial, and this is going to be in After Effects where we're going to be learning to create or recreate the iPhone X screen unlock transition or animation in After Effects CC. It's going to be an amazing tutorial. It's going to be one of the first kind ever on YouTube. I didn't find a similar tutorial on YouTube at all, so I think I'm the first to make such tutorial. Pretty excited about it, so let's not waste much time and let's jump right into the tutorial. Okay, so as you guys saw, the preview that was played before the intro, that was the final result, and here I am in After Effects actually. Now, a couple of things that I want to mention before we get on with this tutorial. Now, this is not a beginner tutorial. You must have some knowledge of After Effects and how After Effects works and stuff like that. This is somewhat of an intermediate tutorial. So if you don't know about After Effects, I suggest you go down below in the description. There are a couple of, there's my After Effects channel playlist, a video playlist, and you can watch a couple of beginner videos and learn about After Effects, and then you can probably come back. So for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to be needing a couple of assets from Photoshop as well. So if I go into Photoshop, you can see I have this file. Now this was a mockup which I found online, and you can download that in the description, but I had to go ahead and make so many changes to make sure that you guys can use this this file for free. The link will be in the description, and I'm going to show you guys what I've actually done. So before creating an animation, what you need to understand is the workflow and the process and what you need and how you're going to use it to create your animation. Now, there are two things that we need to consider in this animation. One is going to be the lock screen and the next one is going to be the home screen. So I need two different screens, and that's what I have created in this Photoshop file. Now let me just break this down and show you guys. So here I have the iPhone X text and everything is rasterized. You cannot change anything. That's because this wasn't created by me. All this most of these assets were created by the original creator, which is why I didn't want to give that out in this project file. Anyways, so once we have that, and then we have a background. Now here we have the lock screen, right? Now as you can see, the lock screen, I just have this, and this isn't fitting to the exact shape of the iPhone X, and the reason is because we're going to be using this wallpaper to mask out, and we're going to be using this to slide up and down, and it needs to make sense. And if it has these rounded corners in the bottom, and when I move it up, it's not going to look realistic, and that's not how the actual iPhone X transition works. So this is the wallpaper, and the next one is the this is the home screen. So we have the time over here and the indicators and a couple of these icons. All these are single individual icons, so you can go ahead and replace them with whatever you need to make it. It's not a it's not a combined object. And then we have the wallpaper itself, and then we have the mask. So if I move this up, you see this is the mask. We're going to be using this in After Effects to give it a beautiful mask effect to the wallpaper, so it suits the actual body of the iPhone. So go ahead and download this project. Okay, so here we are in After Effects, and I'm not going to be showing you guys layer by layer because there are almost 100 layers in this, and I cannot go ahead and show you guys what I did in each of the layers, but I will be breaking down each and every single layer and the transition, the effects, keyframes, timing, and stuff like that. So this is the main composition. Now, before you go ahead, if you want to import your project, what you want to do is just double click and go to your root directory. And then what you want to do is choose the iPhone X unlock.psd. You want to click on import, and what you want to do is set the import kind to footage, and then set the layer options to merged layers, and then go ahead and just click on OK. And that's going to give you this, which is the iPhone X. So it's going to end up giving you this project. As you can see, this is exactly what I had. Okay, so here is what we want to start off with. So this is basically the animation that I have in this composition called as screen. So let's see. Okay, so as you can see, it's just a basic simple unlock. As the phone turns on, this is what actually happens, right? So let's break this down. So the first one is the actual wallpaper itself. As you can see, this is the actual wallpaper, right? And So as you can see, there is no effect, there is no keyframe, it's just a simple wallpaper. Now the next one is the touch bar, which is over here. Let's zoom in closer so we can actually see what's going on. So this is basically, we have the touch bar, and here we have the UI elements. So if I go into my UI elements and turn on transparency, okay, let's not do that. So basically what we have is the indicator, which is all right here on the top, as you can see. Let's follow that. Okay, then we have the unlock top, unlock bottom, and lock. So I'm going to be showing you guys what this is for, but for now let's just keep it simple. And then we have the date, which has no animation, sorry, the time, which has no animation, the date, which has no animation, and these two symbols right here at the bottom, right? And so that's basically static. Now the lock animation, I'm going to explain that later after I finish the wipe transition. So here what I did is I took this layer, duplicated it by pressing Ctrl D and moved it on top, and I added a fill with a black color. So you can go here and choose fill, and that's going to add that. And then I added a linear wipe transition. So, and then let's open up the keyframes by pressing U, and as you can see, this is around 13 frames. So what I'm doing is my wipe is set to 0, my feather is set to 600, and my transition is moving from 0 and it's going up, and it goes up till 85%. Now the reason I did not make it 100% is because this top part is supposed to be a little dark. That's actually what happens on the iPhone X. So if you see it clearly, this part actually is, if I set this to 100, you see it becomes completely bright, but that's not what actually happens. This top part is a little bright, is a little dark. So you want to keep it up to 85%. And then you can right click on these keyframes, go to keyframe assistant and choose easy ease to ease them out. And you can also go into the graph editor if you want to do some changes. So in first 13 seconds, this is what we have. And then what actually happens, if you look at the lock icon, let's just zoom in closer so I can show you guys. There is a lock animation that happens. As you can see, it kind of, just unlocks, right? Simple. So in this composition of the screen, we just have one animation, which is the linear wipe. And here in the UI elements, you can see, let's zoom in closer to this now and show you guys what is happening. So the first layer is just the lock, which is the full final lock. So I've trimmed this up over till 20 frames where the animation where only the wipe animation is happening. And once that is over, so once as I hit the 20 frame mark, I cut this by just selecting it and selecting the end of it and just moving over like so. And then this is where the lock bottom and the lock top start. So basically the lock bottom is just the lock bottom part, and the lock top part is the top part. Now the lock bottom part has no animation, it just stays stagnant, but the lock top part has an animation. So if I press U on my keyboard, I can see the scale positions. Now let's zoom in closer. So on 20 frame, I have the scale set to 100 positive and 100 positive. And as you can see, I've made sure I have removed the link so that I can edit it manually. And then if I come here to 5 frames further, you can see I set this to -100. Now if you have this link turned on and you try to reduce it to -100, it's going to turn the y-axis also to -100. So you want to make sure that this is unlinked. So at 25 frames, we have the lock animation complete as well. Let me just unsolo this. And these are basically the other layers that we have in the composition, which you can, just check out and add it on. All right, so now we are done with the UI elements. Now we are done with the screen. So there we go. We have this, and awesome. Okay. So let's close up the scene. So the next one is this iPhone unlocking. A lot of things to cover over here. So the first one is the bottommost, which is the outer frame. Let me just solo this. So it's basically the outer frame is just a PNG. Same thing is the inner frame. We have a PNG. Then we have the wallpaper. Now, this is something I'm going to teach you guys. If you guys don't know about it, it's going to be using the track maths. Now what you want to do is you want to grab the wallpaper layer, just keep it on top, and then you want to go and grab the mask layer. So if I just go ahead and click on mask, you can see we have the mask layer. All you got to do is just drag that on top. All right, let me show you how it's going to look. So this is how it's going to look. So as you can see, we have the wallpaper on the back and the mask in the front. Now we're going to be using this track matte option. Now, if you don't have this, you can just click on toggle switches and modes and you can see this. And what you have to do is select the wallpaper layer, come here and then choose alpha matte mask. Now what that's going to do is that's going to hide the top layer, which is the mask, and everything in the wallpaper layer is going to fit inside the mask. It's just basically like a clipping mask in Photoshop or Illustrator. Okay, so now it's beautifully confined to this mask that we have. Okay, looking good. So this is just a static mask. This has no movement, no effects, nothing at all. So next up we have the screen. So what I did is I made a copy of this mask and I put it on top, and then I got the screen composition, which is basically the one which has the animation, which is the linear wipe animation. All right, and put it on and made sure that is into alpha matte as well. And then as you can see, we have an animation that looks like this, and there you go. Okay, so now the lock screen moves up, which is basically this screen moves up. And when the screen moves up, this wallpaper layer is the one which is going to be at the bottom. Now, obviously, you can go ahead and change all this. Okay, now let's say you want to replace all of these objects and parts. Now, obviously, I will suggest you to do it in Photoshop as well. Come here and do everything you want, or else you can replace the objects here itself. So if you right click and let's say I go ahead and import something. All right, so I just have this random picture, and what I can do is make sure that in the project panel I am clicking on this is highlighted, and in the composition, the timeline, I am selecting this. So we have two of these items selected, and then what you do is you want to select this, hold on Alt on your keyboard or Option on your Mac, and then just drag it and go ahead and just throw it on that. And now as you can see, if I move this around, and let me just hide this for now, you can see the new object has been replaced. So that's what you want to do. That's how you replace objects. So let me just Control Z that and make sure everything is back to normal. Okay, so the screen animation starts at 1 second and 10 frames. So there's a position and the opacity keyframe, and let's zoom in a little bit more closer, and then let's move 10 frames forward, and 10 frames forward the entire screen is out of the picture. Okay, and as well the opacity is set to 0. So the opacity starts here at 1 second and 13 frames, and the position starts a little earlier, but then they end at the same time, which is 1 second and 20 frames. Okay, so the screen animation is complete. So next up we have the indicator. Let me just close this up. So this is just a just a static indicator which is on the top. Let's zoom in. All right, and this is the time which comes over here, and then we have the bottom apps. All right, now this is the same concept. If you go into your properties and your project panel and choose bottom apps, and you drag it on here and make sure that you have the mask on top and set this to an alpha matte. Let's zoom down and see. So these are basically the bottom apps. Now the animation, the transition for this starts over here at let's see, at 1 second and 19 frames, which is down below, and as you can see, you cannot see it because we have it as a clipping mask. And then when we move 10 frames forward, you see that we have this now present over here, and also the scale changes. Now this is a very important thing that you want to know. Now what actually happens on the iPhone is when you unlock, the icons go back, and just a few seconds later they come back front. So it's kind of like a jerk jelly bean push effect. So here on the position, this is down, and then on here, which is 129, the position is right in the position. The scale is set to 97, and then just 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 frames forward, the scale is back to 100. So if you see this, you can see it moving back and front. It gives that jelly bean rubber band rebound boomerang effect, this is how the iPhone transition works. Okay, so that's pretty cool, done. Now if you go into the bottom apps, you can see all the bottom apps itself. So here in the rectangle, you can see the opacity is set to 20. So you can change this to how much ever you want, and we have all these 4 icons. You can just go ahead and replace them like I showed you, and you should be pretty good to go. Okay, so the bottom apps is done. So now is the home screen icons. Now this is going to be a little complicated. So, but before that, let's just do the lower circle. So the lower circle is basically, let's see, the dock. Let's zoom in closer. Okay, so it's basically the 3 dots with the dock. And how this works is, let's get off the anchor point. We don't need that. So basically it starts like so. So it basically At this point, the opacity is set to 0, the scale is set to 97, and the position is like to the right. And then a few frames forward, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames forward, the position is in the center, the scale is set to 97 again, and the opacity to 100. And then 7 frames forward, you see it goes back and comes forward, for that jelly effect. Okay, so we have the lower circles complete. The last one is the home screen icons. Now, I have a composition called as the home screen. Let's just open that up. So we can see we have this composition called as home screen icons. And here we have the same mask. So just duplicate the mask and then make sure we have the alpha matte, the alpha track matte on the home screen icons. Now let's go into this. So this home screen icon is basically the animation of the home screen icons. Let me just, okay. So let's check out the animation. So you can see as soon as the lock screen goes up, we have all the apps flying in like so, and the animation happens. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so the home screen icons, the position, scale, and opacity, the same concept as the lowercase circles as well. And at the same time over here, a little bit before, the opacity is set to 100 before it comes into its actual resting position. Scale is set to 97. We can change this to 100 actually. Perfect. And here this is going to be 100 by 100 by 100, right? So there you go. So it just starts off at 97 and then it comes back 7 frames forward to 100 to give that boomerang effect. Now let's go into the home screen icons composition. Now this is what you're going to have. Okay, so let's zoom in over here. These are all the icons that we have. Okay, now animating this is going to be a little difficult, so let me just explain as briefly as detail as I can. All right, so as you can see, I have ordered them in a separate order. So the first one is the clock, maps, reminders, and stocks. These 4 center icons are these, okay? And the next one is the ones on this one. So calendar, photos, videos, wallet, app store, news, notes, and weather. And these are here. And the last 4 are the ones at the corners. Now, what you want to do is make sure that all these are at the beginning of the timeline, and you can move these later once the animation is done. So let's take this one for example. Okay, now if I press U on my keyboard, you can see we have this keyframe. So each animation is 10 frames forward. Okay, so each animation duration is 10 frames. Now the first thing you want to do is click on this button, which is going to turn it into a 3D layer. When you turn it in the 3D layer, we get the X, Y, and the Z axis. Now what you want to do is not make the keyframe here, but you want to come here to the 10th frame mark and you want to create a keyframe. So let me just do it from scratch to show you guys. So I'm going to create a position keyframe because this is my end position, right? And then we can come over here to the beginning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this and just move this out like so. All right, like so. And that's in the Z space. Now I can also move this and I can move it up and place it wherever I want. Now the animation that happens is it comes from the back and it comes slowly inside. Let's just play this quickly. Right, as you can see, there you go. It just sits into place. All right, so basically you just have to move around and place them properly. So once you have all of them done, what you want to do is just move 1 frame forward and push the ones which I told you, like the ones here and here. 1 frame forward so the animation starts late, and then go ahead 1 more frame, and at this time start beginning the animation for these as well, right? Okay, pretty cool. So this is how the icon animation is done, and once we can close that, this is what we have, right? The icon animation. Now another thing that I did over here to enhance it is I changed the Z position of this as well because it's going to give it a more dramatic effect, because if you want to do it on the icons itself, it's going to be a little tedious. So doing it on the entire composition itself is going to work out much better. So as soon as the lock screen goes up, you can see it goes up, okay, and these icons, they come into place. All right, they fall right there and right. Pretty cool. All right, so that's what we have so far. So once we have that, you can take the iPhone unlocking, put it on a new composition. So if you want to do that, all you got to do is just select it and just click here and drag it into this, it's going to put it up in a new composition. Now this composition is 1920 by 1080, so 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second and 10 seconds long. So the iPhone animation starts. All right, so there you go. Let's put it on quarter so we can see it faster. All right, so the screen brightens up, and as you can see, one thing I want to mention is the time and the indicator details, they come up even before the actual black part of the screen is gone. And that's actually how it actually happens on every smartphone. As soon as you type and it responds, the animation is slower than the time which comes. So that's a very small detail, but makes a lot of effect. All right, there we go. Now once that happens, the lock screen moves up, fades away, and the opacity of these icon sets is also keyframed in the main composition, which is basically the home screen. As you can see, the opacity is keyframed, and they fall into place. And at the same time, the bottom, the drawer also comes up along with the dock indicator. Beautiful. And then let's see, so at probably 3 seconds and 5 frames, I end up moving this to the left side. Oh, sorry, the iPhone unlocking this composition. So at 3 seconds, it just moves it to the right, and I've added a speed graph. So if I come into the graph editor, the graph looks like this. You can add this for each and every keyframe if you want, but that's up to you. And then we have the iPhone text coming up with 0 to 100 opacity and a simple animation, you know, not complicated at all. And last one, to finally finish it off, we have had motion blur. Now I'm using a plugin called as Real Smart Motion Blur. Oh, I didn't add that. Okay, let's add that. Real Smart Motion Blur. Okay, so you can set the blur amount to 0.5, 0.7, whatever is up to you, and it's going to automatically apply blur to everything that is down below. It just chooses and understands what is happening in the composition and automatically applies the motion blur, which is why it's called as Real Smart Motion Blur. Now, if you don't have this plugin, you can obviously use the inbuilt motion blur plugins. So whichever compositions or layers have an animation like this, all you have to do is click on this button, which is going to add motion blur to the layer. But to enable it in the composition, you need to click on this, and as you can see, it says enable motion blur for all layers within the motion blur switch set, which this is the motion blur switch set. So once this is enabled, motion blur is enabled. But this is going to take a little bit of time to render, so you might want to, you know, just watch out. There you go. So as you can see, we have the motion blur working, and if I get rid of the motion blur, you see there is no motion blur. Now this is an adjustment layer, so you can go and create a layer new and choose an adjustment layer, and boom, there we go. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it on how to create this amazing iPhone X animation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to my channel in the comment sections down below. Subscribe to my channel for more content. Leave a like on the video, and I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye bye.